You might want to check the connection settings in the Google Home app.
All right, we are live. We are live. We are on Dank Talk. Oh, you didn't label it Dank Talk. I thought you was gonna label it Dank Talk.
I'm sorry. I'm throwing this shit together at the last minute trying to get it together. I completely. That's what I should have put. I don't think I did. I screwed up.
No worries. No worries. What up, Smoke?
What's up, dog? What's going on, man? So we got to start doing these at a more appropriate time. What more appropriate time than Sunday, 420? I figure at the end of the day, like, you know, we've been trying to shoehorn these into the week. I don't think we're doing ourselves any favors by trying to, you know, add more to our week. And so it just seemed like Sunday, maybe do like a Sunday 420 sesh. I remember for years there used to be a big, like, I don't want to shout them out, to be honest with you, but there used to be a big Sunday show that used to do a show every Sunday, and it was awesome, and it was, you know, kind of the earliest podcast, I guess.
For sure.
Sorry.
But, did you do an OG Dank session last night?
Yes, me and Earl did one. He had hit me up and wanted to do something about tissue culture. Like, his whole new thing is he's working with this tissue culture lab.
Nice.
And he really wanted to chat about it. And I've got a little bit of experience. I got enough experience to be dangerous. And so, yeah, we had a good chat. One of the things that kind of came from it, he's got the I think it's a female that he's working with at the tissue culture lab, or the person that runs the tissue culture lab does analytical testing.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I've been dying to talk to somebody who does analytical testing.
Analytical in the sense of what?
Essentially, any form of testing with cannabis. So whether it be cannabinoid testing, full spectrum testing, they do a lot of viroid testing, stuff like that, and sex testing. Like, that's kind of the big thing now.
Yeah.
But for me, what I want to talk about, to be honest with you, what I want to talk to them about is there's just questions that I have about certain things and ways that testing affects the industry, ways that kind of stuff is going to affect us going forward. Yeah,
I'm for testing, man. I appreciate the new breakthroughs in in advancement of cannabis that we're seeing at this moment, man. Especially sex testing, man. Sex testing is actually, like, probably been groundbreaking for our program over here, man. Not wasting time with with males. You know, we're able to kind of predict our growth out a little bit better with having that access, that quick and early access to the sex of a plant, man. I think that's amazing.
So, I mean, just be honest. There's no reason I can't talk about what we're talking about. So, to me, one of the things that I really want to talk to somebody that handles analytical testing for, so there's a lot of talk specifically around skunk strains. That as soon as we bring up skunks and people start discussing skunk, somebody's going to jump in the DMs or in the comments. And so, no, you're going to get that too. You're going to get that too. But the other one is skunk smell is not terpenes. It's sulfur compounds. It's other odor compounds. It's something other than terpenes. This is largely true, but it's not the whole truth. So the whole truth is, until we start to test full spectrum for everything that's there, and we start to have a large amount of data based on that, until that happens, we're not going to really know what accounts for skunky smell, what accounts for OG smell, because it's not just terpenes, but we do know based on the quantity of the extract, the largest quantity of what's there is terpenes and cannabinoids,
right,
like within the oil, right?
Right.
And so there is other stuff that's present, but we don't know to what quantity. We don't know how that really affects odor, smell, taste, and these are all definitely things that are affected by something other than just terpenes, because there's other flavor compounds, there's
Flavonoids,
flavonoids, alcohol-based molecules. There's a lot of other stuff, but nobody's testing everything.
right.
So most of the testing that gets done, especially in the U.S., is largely done for potency or for terpenes. That's it, because that's
chemical presence in a final product. But yeah,
right.
You're right.
Or if we're talking about like solvents or microbial stuff like that, but you're not doing full testing on the strain to say, okay, tell me everything that's here. You're really just testing for, if the state requires it, cannabinoids, right? Because you have to have THC, what amount of THC, CBD, CBN, things like that. That's usually required by most states, legal states, for your labeling. But terpene testing lately has become a little more prominent because people can market it. So it's a marketing thing, but it's not really required in most legal states.
Right, for sure. Same thing, like I always speak on here. I think they do a fairly good job at labeling the contents of what we're consuming here in Virginia with the medical cannabis, and all the way from flavonoid to terpene percentage to what's the most dominant terpene in the flower. So that's always good to know, especially when you're looking at it from a medicinal standpoint, as in, okay, I know when I smoke linalool or myrcene or whatever the case your favorite flavor or terpene might be, the effects that you feel in your body, right? So that's always good to know. I've noticed that a lot of the tangy, citrusy terpenes tend to make me very happy, very just a body feel good. You know what I mean? Not even a body feel good, but a mind feel good. And so I thank them for doing that. You know what I mean? For taking the time, spending a little extra money. Because that's just not cheap by far. I mean, they're charging us an arm and a leg for 3.5. So I expect something. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, most legal states have some sort of requirement that there's a certain amount of testing that has to be done. Usually it's mold and microbial testing. It's cannabinoid testing, because they require that. And then some states might require it. But the thing is, with all testing in a commercial setting, those tests, it's a discussion we have all the time about cannabinoid kind of testing being wonky. When you see somebody posting 35, 37% THC, there's an immediate discussion about how easy it is to game the system. Those tests don't really tell the whole picture, because normally when you send a sample in, you're required to send the sample. So what you do is you go to your garden, you pick the best looking bud, you pick a lower bud that's just covered in resin, and essentially, at a certain moisture content, the THC is going to be higher. There's little ways that you can game the system. The true answer is, if you're not taking tons of tests off of one plant or using large sample sizes. So the other thing is, with most testing, what you do is you send in a gram or a couple gram samples, or a handful of 2 gram samples or something like that, right? If you really want testing, you need to take an ounce from different parts of the plant. You need to homogenize the whole ounce and then take a sample from that. That's going to give you a much better understanding of what that whole plant has to offer, versus just taking two little frosty sample. Yeah, because you can pick and choose. There's ways that you can game that. We talk about that all the time, about in commercial settings how testing isn't really accurate. There's in newly legal states, there's less structure, there's less standard. So you tend to see, as soon as the state goes legal, within the first few years, every lab's putting out 38% testing THC. They're putting out 40%. And then within a couple years, once they have better standards, once they're held to higher standards internally, then you start to see those numbers come down. Yeah, and you start to see very few, if any, 30% at all. Like it's out there.
We got our King Neptune tested about a year and a half ago. Wasn't really happy with the testing because it only did THC percentages, and you know how most seasoned, I would say, growers kind of feel about THC, right? It's not the end all be all. But it tested at 21%. But I was more interested in the breakdown of the terpene profiles.
That's not bad though, Mac. Like 21% isn't bad.
No, it's not, bro. But again, I don't really care about THC. I want to know what it tastes like. What's the dominant terpene, so I can start matching people to that say that, hey, I've noticed that medicinally this terpene profile is better for me because of medicinal reasons, right? Because I'm not just a drug dealer, bro. I actually try to do it medicinal, holistic type shit. So I would like to know what was prevalent in the King Neptune versus just saying, hey man, it's 21%, because a lot of people, especially the people that I run with, right, they don't really grow, they usually just purchase, right, from the dispensaries. And the first thing they go do is when they look at the menu is they don't even look at the name, they just look at, oh, this is 26%, this is 21%. Okay, cool. Well, kind of like the homie says, Roster Jeff, bro, THC is only the vehicle in which gets you high. It's the terpenes and the flavonoids that actually give you the euphoric and the entourage effect when it comes down to medicating with the cannabis. Now I'm not saying I want THC that's 5 and 6%, of course not, but you do want to know what more does this weed have to offer than just THC.
So let me tell you, man. So some years ago, I was doing judging for kind of a local cup at the time. And one of the people that had entered, this is kind of funny because I didn't realize it at the time. Like when I was judging the weed, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. After the fact, one of the dudes hit me up and was like, I entered one of your strains. Like I find this out after the testing failed. So here's what's funny. The one that he picked was actually my personal favorite, but the testing was not what you would think. So it was a Bodhi strain, essentially. A cross of one of my strains and a Bodhi strain, if I'm not mistaken. It tested 12% THC, but whatever, I don't remember what the percentage was at the top, off the top of my head, but it won the category for highest terp percentage. But at 12% THC, everybody, it, like I said, it was my favorite because it was the terpiest. It was the most flavorful by far. But it just goes to show, man, that like everybody's taste is different. And until you know better, you do what you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Miles says, bro. Weed should taste good. Just think about it. Would you want to smoke a 48% THC, but it tastes like absolute shit?
Well, we know the answer to this, right? So we have distillate. We have distillate, the shit that is in most people's pens, if they're actually THC Delta 9 pens, is distillate. Because you can make distillate out of anything. But you can also make distillate into like 80+% 90% THC. Right. So you can go out there and get products that are essentially just pure THC with all of the cannabinoids and with all of the terpenes and all of the good stuff stripped, and it's boring. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. It gets you high, and I guess if you're, don't really know the difference and you're not a discerning, you're just puffing 2 blunts a day, and that's, you don't give a shit about what it is, what it smells like, what it tastes like. I get it. Bro, it'll probably get you baked, but it's not
something there, bro. Like that, I really just kind of just me. When I smoke distillate and stuff like that, bro, with the added terps, of course, right? But you don't really get that entourage effect from pens and shit that you do from like dabs or like.
Because the stuff that is in most people's pens, and this is the thing, because most people don't know where their pens come from, what they are, where they get them, what's in them. Most people don't know how it's made. So in short, if you're buying usually black market pens, if they're not Delta 8, like we're talking about actual Delta 9, most people's are distillate. And what that means is you take a bunch of weed, usually the boopiest of the boop or finishes or bottoms, you make black oil with it with ethanol, and then you extract that in a distillation column and separate it out essentially. And when you do that, you can isolate mostly the pure THC. Like you can make high THC oil. And it's been happening for ages and ages. It's nothing new. But the thing is that most of that stuff, there's a reason it doesn't get you all that high. It's probably 80% THC if it's not cut down, right? And we've had 100%. I've had isolate. I've had THC isolate. I've had Delta 8 isolate. I've had most of that THC analogs as isolate. They're just not as interesting.
Yeah.
They'll get you high, but it usually just gives me a headache at a certain point.
And then one thing I noticed too, what up, OG? And one thing I noticed too, bro, is the fact that you don't stay high long. You always take another drag on that pen every 15, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like where I can smoke a blunt of blacked out truffle or some King Neptune, bro, and be good, like night type shit. You know what I mean? Have you ever had the blacked out truffle tested?
I'm sure I have, but now that you're asking me, like I don't know a percentage off the top of my head, but I will say that the Biochem Mom was a Colorado dispensary staple. Like it was a strain that had a fair amount of testing behind it, and it regularly tested over 30%.
So wax is just a different form of like THC, right? Or I guess that's
so
what I said.
Most times, if you see wax, wax is made with butane and is what we call BHO. So there's probably 10 different consistencies that are made with butane. So from butane, you can make sugars, you can make what they call HTFSE, high terpene full spectrum extract, which is like you fully separate the THC from the terpenes and then reintroduce them back together. Wax, what most people call wax, is usually made with some form of butane. There's a ton of different consistencies that you can make from. I mean, you can have wax and it be rosin as well. Like a waxy consistency. But normally when you think of wax, kind of that old school wax, it was usually butane. There's only a couple of different ways that hash is really processed. Like there's really not a lot of mystic to it, right? It's either butane, water, dry, distillate. That's pretty much, there's other options, but that's pretty much the way you're going to encounter extracts in one of those options. Sure. And most of them are either going to be distillate if you're into pens, or some form of butane if you're into like dabbables, until you find solventless.
I've had BHO or honey oil or earwax, like the guy in the comments said.
It's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. It's all just different names for essentially the same product. I mean, shatter. You've ever seen shatter? Shatter's the exact same thing. It's just butane. It's all different purge levels, consistencies, and qualities of this same product.
I'd rather not use BHO, honestly, in my opinion, just the fact that, I know, because you can't tell me that there's not small traces of butane.
Yeah, I can. And it's not dangerous either. Yeah, I can. But
cumulatively, though, over 17 years, you don't think cumulatively that...
Brother, let me tell you this. In the early days, we dabbed some nasty. I started making butane in 2004 for the first time. Haven't made it in years, but it was something that on the early tip, I was making butane. And we dabbed some poopy soupy. And no, butane, after hitting a nail, being filtered through water, there's none of that butane is getting into your lungs. Most of the time, if it's well made, there's very little, to a ppm level, very, very little residual left. butane's very volatile and it wants to be gone. It wants to at almost room temperature. Butane will start to sublimate.
We got a good question, bro.
Whatever it is.
So he said, what would you recommend for sex?
Wait, what was that?
What strands, I guess, or what product would you recommend for sex? So I'll tell you this, bro.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear the end of it.
Everybody's endocrinatic system is different, right? Me personally, bro, the caramel grape donuts or anything with a tangy type flavor for me gets my motor running, bro.
Citrus,
yeah, citrus type flavors, man. I don't know. But again, that's me. What drop in the comments, man. What do y'all like for sex?
let me give. I got an answer for this because once again, these are two things I've dabbled in at some small part in my life. If you're a guy, right, you generally want to avoid heavy indicas or anything that's super strong because once you get to a certain point, you're just not going to perform that well because you're going to be baked as shit and you can't concentrate. let's be honest. Yeah. So like, I always hate to say this, but when people knock on strains like Blue Dream, there's a reason people knock on Blue Dream, but there's a reason people like Blue Dream too. It's because nobody's going to get super fucking baked on Blue Dream. Now, I'm not going to tell you to go smoke Blue Dream and get it on, but I will tell you strains like that aren't as potent or that are, heavy limonene sometimes, a lot of the kind of hazy profiles, something sativa, I would recommend. Females, that doesn't seem to be as big of an issue, generally speaking. And that's another weird thing where like, it's like certain substances, like guys don't perform as well as females do on ecstasy. It's just a well-known fact in the world. And there's a lot of those kind of things like that like the stronger it is, the more it's going to be a problem if you're a guy. Versus if you're a female, it's not the end of the world if you're kind of baked,
Hey, you know what, bro? And I hate to do it, bro. I'm sorry, wife. But I'll tell you a strain that's probably not made for women. The blacked out truffle.
Blackout truffle is not something anybody should be hooking up on unless you got a tolerance. Bro, that strain will knock you to sleep. You'll be sitting there limp asleep and you'll be like, what happened? What were we doing?
So the wife talked all this shit, all day, bro. All day. Right? Man, we get to the fucking bed, bro. We smoke a stick of fucking blackout truffle, bro. And she is, man, I'm tired. I'm sleepy. What you mean? What you sleepy, man? It's night time, bro. And I think I hit you up like the next morning, bro. I was like, hey, bro. She said she night with this shit, bro.
I warned you though, bro. I tell everybody, and I think the real of it is, I think a lot of people think that because there's so much BS about seeds and marketing and strains that like, if somebody tells you it's amazing, they're usually just trying to get you to buy it, right? Yeah. And the truth is, that's one of those strains that like I tell people all the time, it's special, be careful. It's known to put people to sleep, even well-experienced smokers. It's kind of a combination between middle to high THC and myrcene, and it's night. Like I had somebody else just today hit me up, was telling me that I posted some pictures of the strain that they had shared, and he was like, bro, I smoked some this morning and 3 hours later I was almost ready to go back to bed. He was like, this is not the get it done weed. And I was like, I tell people that all the time. It's not just a normal strain. It's a knock you out, get you there. Even if you got a high tolerance, it's going to hit you, and you're going to want to go crawl up with a thing of ice cream and pass out.
That boy got a square and some drink. It's up.
Well, it makes amazing crosses, too, because the Ego Death is another great example of just it's a beautiful strain, and when it's all to the biochem. The biochem mom is a special strain.
So Smoke mentioned mushrooms, bro. Mushroom smoke, I'm not a pro on the mushrooms, but I think they do the exact opposite, bro. I wouldn't want to, be ready to get it on, bro. What I'm saying? And then start flipping out, bro.
Let me tell you a little piece of advice, and I'll try to be as polite with this as I can.
Yeah.
This is an honest to God thing that somebody told me, and it was advice that I got when I was like 15 or 16, and I was first getting into hallucinogens. And one of my buddies goes, listen, man, I'm going to tell you this once. take it or leave it. If you're going down, don't do it while you're tripping. And I was like, okay. And of course, we all break that rule at some point in time.
No,
And
sir.
you come to realize, yeah, it gets to be a strange world, man. And I will say this though, mushroom. I've actually had a lot of fun on mushrooms, but it's another one that like you kind of have to just time it. Like if you're peaking, you're not going to do anything but just sit there with your eyes in your back of your head, you know.
Yeah.
But like once you kind of get on the back end of it, then you're good.
Bro, I don't want to risk it, bro. I've seen some things on mushrooms, bro, and I wasn't a believer at first, bro. I was a person that thought everybody was exaggerating, and I was just a naysayer until I peaked and I was fucked up. Like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? So definitely want to be careful with that shit, bro. So about the new line, bro, you know, and let's talk about some of the new products you're working on, bro. Well, not working on, but actually got out right now. Like, what's been it? What kind of feedback you getting from it?
Well, to be honest, man, like I don't remember the last time we did a show, so I don't even remember. I think the last time I was still pushing the Lucky Charms, and those crosses have just been amazing. I started that project based on a love affair that I had with a cut in around 2015, 2016. Around Boulder, there was a couple of dispensaries that had it, but it was a Lucky Charms cut, and it was amazing. It dropped like 6%, full melt, beautiful heads, and you know it was one of those that like because all the dispensaries had it. If you ended up with it, you kind of had to deal with all the problems that come with dispensary weed, right? So probably had powdery mildew, probably had bugs, it probably had, you know, just problems, right? And so some years later, I do a couple trades online and I ended up with like 2 packs of vintage Lucky Charms, which at this point, I mean, I got to think they're probably from the 2010s, the early 2010s.
Damn.
You know, like
I didn't know that your was that old.
Yeah, well, I mean, I first saw it in probably 2014, and by that point, I think a lot of those dispensaries had been running it for a couple years. So I got to think the middle 2010s, early 2010s was when that was released. But I'm not a huge Bodie historian. So I don't. There's a lot of his stuff that like I don't really know the lineage of, and well, not lineage, but I don't know all the backstory. And so anyway, I had these 2 packs, and I was like, man, I know it washes well. I know there's a lot of potential, so I wanted, you know, I'm going to see what this is and see what it's got, and run it out, and we'll see what happens. And it ended up being just as good as the cut that we've run. I made some really awesome crosses with it, and it's dank. Like all the crosses wash well, so it's a really good banger. And then the new stuff that I just released is the Royal Head Rush line, which we were colloquially referring to as the pooping line, but it's really gas, kush, chem, OG type profiles. No fruit was kind of the mantra, was just no fruit.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I did that because I got a little heavy on some berry with 1 or 2. Unintentionally, like when you start to run those pushes, you kind of end up in 2 different directions, right? There's the like funky coffee, dank kind of profiles, and then there's kind of this berry line to those old Afghans where it's like kind of rich red wine, berries type of thing. And so I got a little bit into some of those. But most of the strains ended up being gas, chem, kush, poop. Like just funk, nasty, dank.
Let me clear it before somebody says I didn't clear it.
Bro, it's just what I mean. Like the more I did shows like this that we would talk to people, the more I started to see there was kind of a move, I think, from a lot of people away from fruity, away from cookies, away from kind of the same boring sweet cake strains.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it came from. I love dank. Like I love dank, and I love dank in all forms, but like I love stank, funk, skunk, this nasty. Like I love it just as much as anybody. I love to keep fruity shit around just so I can smoke some dank and then smoke some fruity stuff for a day or two, and then I appreciate the dank so much more.
You know, I seen you post a picture of Turk Bomb the other day. Old strand of yours that I don't think really got the recognition. And I'm glad somebody's growing it and posted it because I used it in the Turks and Caicos, bro. And I talk about that all the time, man.
Yeah, like, the pineapple tart. The pineapple tart was a collab with me and Weeds the People. It was pineapple sorbet and his ice cream cake, I believe.
Nice.
And that was one of the, after I ran into the sorbet, the pineapple sorbet, and it kind of changed my life with flavor. I started to run. That was the pineapple tart was the first cross that I made with the sorbet that I was like, oh, okay. It's not only just an amazing strain, but it's a breeder. Like it's got mad potential. It's got
plans on F2 or BXing the Turk Bomb?
What's that?
I say any plans on BXing or
the Turk Bomb?
I'm telling you, that's a motherfucker, bro. That's a motherfucker.
Man, here's the problem, right? And the answer is not no. The answer is not no. Like you are right. The problem is the whiteboard is so full of projects that I want to get to, like the Deems. There's a couple more of those early sorbet crosses that people have just been harassing me about making more of. And I'm gonna be honest.
I just think Turk Bomb didn't get the recognition. That's a fire ass.
Yeah, no, you're not. Like I said, you're not wrong. Like it's just the problem is I have to kind of balance strains I want to run and strains other people want, you know? And it's like I have to kind of, it's like being an actor, right? You can't do the little art house movies if you're not also doing the big blockbuster movies that pay the bills. So there's a little bit of like, you got to do a little bit of what other people are interested in and a little bit of what you're interested in and kind of balance it. So that's a strain that definitely, I mean, you're not wrong. I would love to work with it some more. I think I got some pineapple tart coming up, some other crosses that came along with the same. So me and Weeds the People is another Instagram page. At one point, dude had a bunch of bomb cuts. I sent him a bunch of pineapple sorbet pollen, and then we split a bunch of cuts. We split a bunch of seeds. And I'm finally getting around to some of those that I ran back there because he had some really dank hype stuff. You know, hype doesn't mean a lot to me, but I know it means stuff to other people. So there is that's another balance of like kind of balancing things that other people want versus, you know, things that I want to work with. All I ever care about is resin, flavors, and dank. That's it. Like all the rest of it, the names, the lineages, all the rest of it is secondary to resin, flavors, dank. That's it.
You know, shout out to Weed the People, man. I actually just found them on YouTube maybe about a week ago, and I didn't even know that you were actually working with them or have worked with them in the past, bro. How you do in the show? I don't know what you're talking about. So we finally got the King Neptune in a competition, bro. And it's one of the largest competitions on the East Coast right now. It's nice. The National Cannabis Festival, I think it is, in DC.
Oh, DC.
Yeah, in DC. They fucking shout out to Devin the Dude, man. Devin the Dude's gonna be there. It's a Houston legend. You know, made some of the best weed songs, you know, out of Houston to ever do it, right? You know, so I'm excited, bro. Hopefully we can come home with our first cup, bro. That shit be dope as fuck. Even if we don't even get first, as long as we place, man, I feel like it's gonna be worth the expense to go up there. But you know, I really think the King Neptune is special, man. Like I've got nothing but great reviews all throughout Virginia, and even finally got the nine in California. You know what I'm saying? So,
what's the profile like?
The profile is dank, bro. It's lemony, it's fake, it's doughy, and it's funk. And,
see, let me throw this out here because this is something that kind of ties a little bit of everything that we've said, and it's something I've been meaning to mention on the show that we were doing. So I just read a thing. They're finally starting to see actual scientific evidence, proper testing to show that terpenes have an effect. So for years and years and years, I keep joking that if you believe in terpene modulation, you immediately have to believe in aromatherapy because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Difference is THC. So when we're consuming THC, there's obviously an effect, a noticeable effect. But now they're starting to show that that effect can directly be modulated by terpenes. And the one that they used specifically for the test that I'm referencing was limonene, because limonene has generally been associated with anti-anxiety, like less mind heavy high, stuff like that. They're, like we said earlier, they're kind of light, they're easy, you're not going to get super overwhelmed with them. Whereas we also know myrcene, particularly, the more myrcene there is, the more likely you're going to tell me I went to bed at 3 p.m. because I smoked a half a joint, right? So we know this, and we've known this for ages. But now they're starting to prove this, and it's only making all the things that we've been saying all this time about how important terpenes specifically are to the effect, that it's just validating what we've known for
basically life science, bro. Like, we have noses for a reason. We have that sense of smell for a reason. It sends messages to our brains, whether it's good or bad, right? So why wouldn't that work with something we're consuming, put in our bodies anyway, bro? Like the smell, the nose always knows. You know what I mean? Like, so it should be that shouldn't even have to be a study, because you put a piece of shit on a plate and cover it, and you put a fucking apple pie on the plate and cover it, and you only do a blind sniff test, and let's see which one your brain tells you you want to pick up, right? It's basic science, man. But I'm glad that they're actually doing, some people are only, they can't live by like life rules. They have to see concrete.
Well, see, here's what's fucked up, right? So all they did was test pure THC and limonene, right? That's it. They didn't test it in an extract like you would have from the cannabis plant, which also has 50 other terpenes in it. That's not the only like, the whole thing is that it's such a complex plant that all the testing in the world up to this point still hasn't explained how everything works together. We still don't know, because we still don't know what all is there.
Right. I see it on like I said, the pack of here in Virginia, right? So what you're saying, if one of those percents are higher or lower, it can change the whole terpene all the way to the entourage effect of the weed, right?
It's even crazier than that. Different parts of the plant, of the same plant, will have different profiles. So each sample that's the funny thing, is that it's not just.
So if I fit in a sugar leaf versus fitting in that actual bud.
Or even just taking an upper versus a lower bud, you're going to have different concentrations of chemicals. So you're going to have maybe more THC in some places, but higher concentrations of certain terpenes. It's all variable. And that's the funny thing, is that when you study one strain, you come to realize how complex one strain is. There's thousands of different varieties
of that strain, that one strain,
and it's like we have now the greatest coloring book of flavors that we've ever seen in history, because more people are breeding, more people are putting more strains out. And I know somebody in the comments right now while I'm saying this is, but why do they have to keep breeding so much cookies? Doesn't matter. The more strains, the better. Of all of the seeds, the more seeds people pop, the better. Because that means the gene pool is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now,
I don't believe that. I don't believe that crossing a cookie cross to another cookie cross is bottlenecking the gene pool, because just that gene pool, period. So you got great grandparents. I've seen stuff that I popped, bro, that resembles nothing like I thought it was going to resemble. But then I researched its great grandparents And on just this particular seed, the great grandparents came out, not the parents or the grandparents. You know what I mean? And so that's why I think it's so hard to even say just by breeding a certain strand and you seeing it prevalent in the industry that it's killing the industry.
If you go look at my page, just take my page, and I have strains that have, that have lineages that people would complain about. There's stuff that there's Skittles crosses, there's stuff that has absolutely no fruit in it, right? I think it's largely the Skittles stuff that everybody's having a problem with, because when you say cookies, the forum cut of cookies is not that common. So you're just really talking about strains that people have named something cookies. Or your homie carries a lot of them little envelopes that have that blue packaging on them that you can get from wish.com for a nickel a pop, maybe a dime.
Yep.
And they put all the boof in it. And so when you see that and you see people showing pictures of it online, of course they say it's cookies, because those envelopes are super cheap and cookies is the biggest marketing brand in weed.
Right.
But the reality is it's not all just cookies. When you look at any good grower who runs a ton of genetics, there's tons of variation out there.
For sure. Yeah.
There's the indicas, there's shit that has no cookies in it whatsoever. It's all out there.
Out of all the growers I know, I think our camp is truly really the only people growing farm cut cookies. Like I don't know our camp, supply chain. I don't know anybody else growing cookies. You know what I mean?
I see it occasionally. It's not commercially viable as a strain. It makes dank resin crosses. So like if you're trying to make hash plants that people love it because it washes okay. Today, I think 20 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that, it was a much bigger strain than it is today. I think years ago, cookies was much more popular because it was rare. And then once everybody got their hands on the actual cut, they realized it's not that great to grow. It grows these tiny little popcorns. Sure, they're frosty, but it's not. If you've got the real cookies, it's a bitch.
I agree.
It's a bitch.
It's not a bitch to grow, but it does give you the most beautiful, frosty, greatest smoke.
The resin's great,
but not very many. Like in my appearance, like in my experience, and I've only grown it once. So, and I've grown it in a small sample. The homie's growing it on a larger sample now. We're gonna see it differently, but I do say, as of now, my first time personally growing it, it was the best smoke. But it's more of a head stash versus being commercial viable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not
great shit that you want to pull out for some personal, like.
Bro,
man.
I've seen it run in commercial gardens, and what they do, it branches so hard that what they do is they just bang tons of them in together and just pack the table as full as you can get it, because it's just like a couple sprigs on each plant. It just throws this like long branch with just popcorn. Even the top is just a tiny little popcorn. You never see like a cola of cookies. Yeah. It's always just pop. If you've got the real cookies, but the problem is cookies is also a brand. Cookies is a marketing brand. They sell stuff at your local Zoomies in your mall. It's a brand.
I think he picked the perfect name, and it was because cookies came out first, and then the brand cookies came out maybe a little bit after. And I think he picked the perfect storm to because at that point, cookies was the hottest shit, head stash on the market, the black market, right? Yeah. And here's this brand that claims that he has cookies. I'm not sure if he had connection to the cookie family or whoever cooked it up, but it was just a perfect storm at that time, man. And
I'm going to throw another one out there for you, man. This is a spicy take. Man, all of the dankest strains like that are garbage to grow. OG Kush is another great example of a strain that, like, people on the West Coast, especially from a certain time, will tell you that life is nothing but OG Kush. That's all it's about. Doesn't fucking matter. Life is OG Kush. It is such a headache to grow because it's such an old, beat-up cut at this point. It's tired. It just doesn't veg really hard or fast. It's just slow. What does grow off of it is dank. But what we found is that these strains make great crosses. Even though they're herm prone, you deal with some of the shit that comes with them because they're all pretty much bag seed origin, right? But yeah, it's just been all of those dank strains. The reason that they're so prized is because they're such a bitch to grow. Like if it was a strain that just threw down like Blue Dream, there'd be dank everywhere. But some of these dankest strains, it's just they're not the biggest producers commercially.
I'm having my first experience now growing the Mac 1. I haven't had any complaints about it just yet. They even told me when I got it that it's a slow veg.
It's a weird profile.
I haven't seen it. It's growing normal right now, in my opinion, especially for the conditions that I got it in. I'm excited to see the final flower of it, man, and experience it for myself. Like I love OGs and everybody telling me, their opinions on it, but I always want to grow it for myself and see, because it might not have just been viable in your garden. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's something too, bro. Like that how the cannabis plant is just so unique, bro, because from garden to garden, from environment to environment, we'll get completely, totally different testing. Like on the same cut.
Yep.
That's fucking dope as shit. For instance, like I got the same cut of the peanut butter breath that my homie runs, bro. And when I ran it, like the underside of the leaf of the fan leaves were always purple. Like it would be green on top until late flower where the whole fan leaves and the plant will go purple. But in my homie's garden, I'm looking and I'm like, he doesn't get that purple leaf. I just thought it was dope as fuck, But I'm like, damn, he don't get that shit, bro. Like it's the same cut. But I just think cannabis is so fucking what's the word for it, man? It's so fluid, man. It's so I'm high, y'all. I can't think of. Help me out in the comments, goddamn.
No, you can, man. I will say this, bro. It's changing every day. So, like, I think when people say that there's only X out there or that everything's a cookie cross, I think the reality is that these aren't usually people that pop a lot of seeds. They're people that get weed. They get weed from a buddy. They get weed from their homies. They might even grow a little bit, but they're usually not people popping a ton of different seeds. Once you get out there and see what the market really has, you realize there's people out there working land race stuff. There's people out there where it's all about what you want to find. Like just on Instagram alone,
you want to find your niche.
It's all out. Right. You just have to find what you're into. If you're not into cookie strains, that's great. You should be growing non-cookie strains and breeding non-cookie strains, because that way there's going to be more of whatever it is that you think there's not enough of. Right? That's the best thing we can all do. If you want more of something to be out there, you need to be growing it and breeding it yourself.
I grow. I'm kind of like you, man. I grow for what I like and what the old lady like. And if my crosses kind of fit what you like, then you'll fuck with me. But if you're not really into the profiles that I'm chasing, because at the end of the day, like I said, I grow for me. Like even though I grow for y'all, I grow for me. You know what I'm saying? And if you enjoy what I'm doing, man.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, I say that all the time. That's the thing is like it's a balance. Because if it were just up to me, I'd just be breeding Kush all the time, like just more Kush. And I'm glad that that's not the case, because it's forced me to diversify. It's forced me to really try different things, maybe even things that aren't necessarily in my wheelhouse, because I've found great stuff out there from just being curious, from saying, you know what, what's a couple of seeds? Let me see what it's got to offer. I tell people all the time, though, I'm not going to run 100 of your seeds. If I can't find a winner in 5 or 10 seeds, I'm not going to run more.
Right. I watched it up. I gave it a shot.
Yeah. You only get one shot, and it's a narrow window. And that's the thing that most breeders don't understand, is that's how most growers think. Most growers aren't going to run a fucking 200 plant run of just your seeds. Most growers are going to run 3 to 5 seeds, and if they don't find a winner, probably going to move on.
For sure.
I mean, it is what it is. And it's like the truth is that's why you got to bat more home runs than strikes. Because at the end of the day, if you're not putting out consistent dank and over batches, like it's one thing to put out one line that's really dank. It's another thing to do that for a decade. It's
Right.
another thing to do that for a long period of time. And
Sure.
it's like consistency over time is much tougher than just having one good run of hot. Everything gets hot for a little while.
If you get a 3 seed shot, because you got to be honest, man. Most people don't have a lot of space, and a lot of people are even restricted by plant count, right? So you really only get in 3 seeds is kind of high, bro. If you think about it, the normal guy running the 4x4, like that likes flavors, somebody like me, you might get 3 seeds pop, but only 2 are gonna actually make it to the fucking, to the tent, right? Yeah, that's something. I didn't even think about that, bro. You're right.
No, man. And that's the thing is like that's even funnier because there are subsections of the industry where people are willing to look. So people that wash hash, those tend to be people that understand you might go through a couple hundred plants to find one that's amazing, that checks all
the actual what's that? The actual missing piece said something perfect. He said, "I feel that completely, but if I find one in a pack of 12, then I'll go back to that pack and see if I can find something in that one."
I agree.
That's spot on.
Yeah,
that's spot on.
Yeah, I agree. And my whole thing is, man, I want out of 12 seeds, I want your biggest problem to be which keeper to keep. Because I want you to be able to find out of a pack. If I'm talking about 12, I want at least 3 plants that are amazing. That's the numbers I'm shooting for. At least 3 or 4 that are unbelievable. That are like, man, I have a hard time. Which one of these am I going to keep? Because they're all just dank. That's what I'm shooting for.
Yo, we got to get in the habit of, if you find something special, always take clones of what you got going on in your tent, because chances are
nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, get in the habit of taking clones, guys. I want to put that out there, man. I've been talking to a couple of grown-ups of mine and just trying to stress that. It took me a while to get into it too, but get in the habit of taking clones, just because you might have that special one, and you don't want to feel that feeling of one got away. So take clones, guys.
Happens to all of us, man. The other thing is, like, clones are great. The truth is, clones are a great way to keep a particular plant that you love. But if you love it that much, the best way to make sure it makes it to the next generation is seeds, is to breed it with other stuff. Because clones, especially in today's market with viroids and problems and issues and PM and bugs and all the bullshit, seeds generally don't have a ton of those problems. And so you don't have to necessarily keep it in this tiny little fragile, sterile area for 20 years. Seeds last a lot longer than cuts.
Yeah, but
generally speaking, both are helpful, but like, make those crosses, man.
Nah, I guess what I'm saying, because you can't make that cross without that fucking clone.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, right.
So even if you, like I say, if you want to reverse it or breed it, you got to initially take that clone, because you can't breed it. You don't know what you got until you smoke it.
Spread it around too. If you love it and it's that great, let everybody know.
Right.
Bro, I said that for years. Was like,
doubt, bro. That re-veg is the motherfucker too, bro. But that takes.
It's stressful. I don't like it, and there's still such a chance. Yeah, it's one of those things. If it's that great, spread it around, man. Because the best way your strain is going to hold up the test of time is being out there amongst other dank strains, and it's still floating to the top for some reason.
For sure, yeah, I definitely feel that shit, bro. Like I've been trying to give away fucking caramel grape donuts clone and the Turks and Caicos clone, just because like I want to get that out there. I think those 2 are 2 special plants, man, that I want the world growing, man, like for sure. And what was crazy about the Turk bomb is that, the Turks and Caicos, is I didn't get very many seeds. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, I took a clone. I maybe have 6 seeds left of it, but I have been having this clone that I've been running for about a year and a half now. So I got one of those to give away. If somebody want it, man, please reach out to me. I want somebody to grow the turkey.
I'm already working with it.
Yeah. It's a I know you're working with the caramel grape donuts, but the Turks and Caicos is fire too, which is the Turk bomb times.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely want somebody to run that shit. Males, for sure. Males are definitely important, bro. Males are definitely important. You want to definitely find obviously great males and clone those motherfuckers too. If that motherfucker fire shit, you know, shit.
Yeah. Hey, we probably got about 2 more minutes before Instagram hour cuts us.
For sure.
I mean, you can throw a few more out there if you want. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm good, man. I'm fucking feeling good right now. Shit, I'm gonna hit this bomb one more time. But be on the lookout for Monday, man. I'll be dropping another episode of the Business is Blooming podcast featuring the homie Bam Bam out of fucking Washington, man. So y'all go watch that.
See, that works out better if you're already dropping the other show on Monday and we start doing this at 4:20 on Sundays. Then it's like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we bookend our own shows. That works great, man. We need to start trying. This is easier for me too. This is so much easier than 10 o'clock on the weekday.
It's easy because it's not football season, bro. Football season, man. The Houston Texans, bro.
My pro football team's trash. Football to me is a Saturday thing.
Nah, for sure, bro. But the Houston Texans made one of the greatest upgrades ever in football history, bro. Just move the Ryan. Shout out to you and what you got going on over there, man. I'm excited to see how all out this season. Yeah, I clone all my males. Dope. Let's work, shit. Let's work, Land Shark. Talk to me. Hit me in the DM. We can definitely try to work something out. I got a couple projects going on right now, reversal. And then I got one more after that, but definitely would love to do some work with you, bro. Let's get it.
All right, dog. Let's wrap it up. Terpfiend.com, www.terpfi3nd.com, where you find it.
For sure. All right, you can find me at the Real Mac Blunts. If you're not following the Business is Blooming podcast, Instagram, please do so and be on the lookout for a new episode on Monday. This has been another episode of Dank Talk, man, talking with the Mr. Dank himself, man.
That was the first one in months that went off without a hitch. I can't believe it. We found a solution. We have a way we can do the show. Fuck Instagram, bro. I don't know why it's such a headache, but it's just when you and I try to link up. I did a pod last night, had no problem. Hopped right on, no problems. I see you doing them all the time, too. I don't know what it is, but damn the man.
We got our work way around now, bro. So shout out to StreamYard, man.
Peace.